So I get asked this question a lot. How did you retire here in the Philippines at a young age? You know what, there's a lot of reasons people retire at a young age here in the Philippines. You know, you think about it, military guys, there's quite a bunch of military guys here that have retired. We've got people here with disabilities that came here that are receiving disability. Maybe they got hurt, maybe they have mental issues. You got guys here that are like trust fund babies, you know, people that come from a family that just might have a lot of money, or you know, maybe somebody inherited a lot of money and they came here. But there's many reasons why people are retired at a young age here. But anyways, I'm going to share you my story on how I became able to retire in the Philippines at a young age. I can remember my first job I had was a paper boy. That's what we did as kids, you know, you got a job as a paper boy. You know, rode around on your bicycle delivering newspapers, throwing newspapers on yards, walk if it was raining, or ride your bike or whatever when it was snowing. But that was my first job. Another job I had growing up, we had friends down the street, they were Mennonites, and they had kids that were my age. I got to know them, I'd play with them, we'd all play together. And they had an ice factory. And I got a job there in the ice factory, bagging ice, delivering ice. You know, I rode along in the truck. Remember in the summertime, it was so hot, we'd have snowball fights inside and outside. But yeah, that was a job I had. And you know what? Guy paid me under the table. I thought I was making a ton of money. It was awesome. Got one summer, I took a job at a campground, did like maintenance work. Mowed the yards, repaired things. I think I was around like 17 years old, 16, 17. Took that job. Had a good time doing that. But then it got to the point, you know, I was in high school and I'm like, you know what? High school's not for me. I was never really a good kid in school as far as like getting good grades and you know, I tried, but I just wasn't that smart, you know. They would classify me now as like ADD, ADHD, DD, all them DDDs. They would have classified me that when I was in school, but didn't exist when I was going to school. So I said, you know what, I'm out of school. I don't want to go to school anymore. I want to work, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the guy out there. I'm going to be the guy out there to just the hands-on work. I'm not going to be the office guy, anything like that. That's not going to be me. I'm not going to go to college. So I said, I'm leaving school. So I left school and worked. Got a job working, where did I work? Oh, I worked at a printing place, a big printing press place. A place was called Brown Printing. Worked there for a while. And the whole time my grandmother kept bugging me. She's like, Brian, get your GED, get your GED. At least get a GED. I'm like, you know, I'm gonna work. And she says, listen, she goes, I'll go to school with you and we'll both get our GED together. And my grandmother was in her mid-60s at the time. She was born in 1924. And so she was in that, you know, that Depression era, you know. And so I said, okay. So the high school I had gone to offered a night school to help get your GED, they help you study and everything. So her and I went and we got our GED together. My grandmother, God rest her soul, she convinced me to get at least my GED. So we did that. They gave us our GED, and the school even had like a little graduation. They gave us like a diploma from the high school, you know, saying we completed it and everything. And then my grandmother kept bugging me. She said, Brian, go into the military. And I said, you know what, Graham, it's not really for me. Now my grandfather was in the military, fought in World War II. I had an uncle, my Uncle Paul fought in Korean War. So we had family that was in the military. And I guess she wanted me to be the next generation. So I told her, I said, Grandma, it's really not for me. She goes, listen, she goes, I got a friend who's a state representative. She goes, talk to him. I said, all right. So I went and talked to the state representative, and he said, I have some friends that are in the Pennsylvania National Guard. He said, they're retired, or not retired, but they're Vietnam vets, and now they're in the Pennsylvania National Guard. Now at the time, there was no war going on back in the States, so it wasn't, you know, like I wanted to run out and join the military to, you know, defend the country. So anyways, I talked to these guys. Sergeant Kramer was the recruiting sergeant, and but yeah, I talked to these Vietnam vets and stuff, and they said, "Oh, just come down and check it out." And I'm like, "All right." So I checked it out, signed up, and went to basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Did my basic training there. Marched Misery, Agony, and Defeat. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. From there, I went down to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Heavy equipment operator, 62 Foxtrot. Completed my basic training, completed my AIT. And you know what? When I got out of there, I felt good, like I felt proud. I accomplished something. You know, they teach you to work as a unit, you know, as a group, and to function as a group. And that was something that I was missing in life. And my grandmother knew that. So I got out of there and still did my reserve weekends and things. And then I went to a stone quarry. I said, let me go to this stone quarry and let me apply there. You know, they got heavy equipment. They got big dump trucks there. They got front end loaders. So I did that for a few years. But what happened is they would lay people off during the winter time. And after a while, I'm like, yeah, you know what? This kind of isn't for me, you know. So I started looking for another job. Then I hooked up with a guy. He made hand-bent willow furniture. It's like folk art, and I hooked up with him and did that for a few years. I enjoyed doing that, loved doing that kind of work, but like there was nothing there for me. So I left there, and then I started working as a pipe fitter, installing sprinkler systems, going around, you know, doing things like that. And after a few years, I'm kind of looking like, you know what, these guys are all beat up, man. They're all bad backs and knees and elbows, and all these guys in these big construction, you know, doing construction work are beat up. I'm like, I don't want to be like that. So I left there, and I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be a better job out there that you don't have to work so hard for, get good benefits and good pay, and a decent retirement. So I left there, went back to the quarry, worked there for a while, and then I was talking to my dad, and he said, hey, he goes, listen, he goes, I got a good friend named Charlie. He goes, I went to high school with him, grew up with him. He goes, go talk to him. He works up at the prison. He's a lieutenant. I'm like, all right. So I went up and I talked to Charlie. Charlie's like, listen, he goes, I'm telling you right now, it's the best kept secret in the state. He goes, you get paid good, you get good benefits, and you can retire at a young age. He goes, you're 30 years old. He goes, you put in 20 years. He goes, you'll be 50, and that's what you need. That's the key number, 20 years and age 50. So I said, all right, let me give this a try. So passed the test, took a civil service test, passed that. Said, okay, report to the academy down in Elizabethtown. I'm like, all right, went down there, did my training down there. I think it was 8 weeks of training, and came back to the prison and started my career in the prison. The first year in there, you work all over the place. You work every post in there. You work, you know, learning the posts, learning, you know, the post orders and how they work. So I did that, and you know, for the first couple of years, they kind of rotate you around different places, and then after you got some time in, then they assign you a place. Prison's not a nice place. First of all, I want to say this: don't believe Hollywood. Don't believe your Hollywood stories that you see. Prison is completely different than that. But anyways, prison is it's a terrible place. It's one of the top deadliest places to work. I can tell you story upon story of things that happen there. You know, there's people out there that say, oh, you know, the guards are this and that. Well, trust me, I work there. It's all about respect. You respect the inmates will respect you. It takes time to get that respect, but once they get it, they got it. I wasn't one of those neat, ugly, nasty COs. I did my job. I did my job, what was required of me to do. But I was a correction officer for 10 years. Enjoyed doing that. There was a lot of opportunity there. There was growth there. You could become a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, work your way up through the system. But I just stayed as a correctional officer. I had a handful of friends that I associated with outside work. My thing always was, you know, when I left work, I left work. I didn't bring those problems with me home. Very hard not to, but I would leave it at work. The guys I hung out with, you know, we didn't talk work, outside work. But you had a lot of guys that talk work, outside work, and even to this day, they're retired and they still talk work. Don't know why. Anyways, I did that for a few years. Then I transferred into maintenance. I seen a position become available in maintenance. So I said, let me try this position. So, you know, the fact that I worked, you know, maintenance jobs prior to, you know, working in the DOC, you know, plumbing, pipe fitting, running equipment. At the quarry, I did welding. I had like a resume of maintenance that I could put on there to apply for this job. So I applied for the job and I got it. Now it wasn't a pay increase. It was, as a matter of fact, it was the same pay increase. Lateral transfer, still working for the DOC. The only good thing about it was I worked Monday through Friday, had weekends and holidays off. Kind of could have a normal life. Working as a CO, you worked rotating days and weeks. You would work, you know, so many days in a row. You'd have off like a Monday, Tuesday, then work, have a Tuesday, Wednesday, then work another week, so on and so forth. Then after, I think it was like almost 5 or 6 weeks, you had a long weekend. So that was one of the positive things, and one of the reasons, another reason I decided to switch. You're still in charge of inmates, you still did things with inmates, you just taught them a trade. So my first position I had doing that, I worked the front gate in the administration area. Got to meet a lot of people that were, you know, people that were involved in the DOC. I worked around the superintendent every day, deputies, majors, captains, lieutenants. Plus I also got to meet a lot of people that were involved in the DOC throughout the state and throughout the prison system, working up there. Enjoyed that. What I did was I took a group of inmates around and basically cleaned up in the administration area. Then I took a position as a community work supervisor. What I did was I took inmates that were didn't have a lot of time, weren't in there for a violent crime, like petty crime, and we went throughout different places in the states, like state parks, cleaned up state parks, went to like children campgrounds, painted buildings, cleaned up, just did a little bit of this and that for the community. These guys had to give back to the community. That was part of their program and their sentence, and I was there to take them and supervise them and get the job done. And then from there I transferred into, there was a position available in the recycling department. They had a recycling program in the state of Pennsylvania in Department of Corrections, but it wasn't that big, it was small. So what I did was I hooked up with another employee and pretty much blew the program bigger and wider, recycling a lot more, composting, did all that. And what they actually did was the state turned around and looked at our program we had, and they made that the standard for all the other prisons in the state of Pennsylvania, and other institutions in other states were looking at our program and seeing what we were doing. And that was an awesome experience too, to be able to make something and grow something big, and be a part of that. I mean, I really thoroughly enjoyed that. All right, so then at this point, you know, I had years in. You know what? Thing with the DOC is there's a massive turnover ratio in there. People leave for multiple reasons, get different jobs, stress, promotions, don't like it, just quit, get caught up in something, get fired. I mean, there's so many reasons why somebody would leave the DOC. I think out of 15, there might have been 4 of us left. Once you got 5 years in there, they say, you know what, you pretty much got it. So anyways, like I said, I took this position as a in the recycling program, still part of the maintenance department. And I was a couple of years from getting ready to retire, and I was on the back of a stake body truck, and there was a lot of food slop all over, because we would bring the food slop out to compost it and put it out in the fields. And what happened was, I slipped off the back of the truck. I fell, I don't know, a good, I don't know, maybe 8 feet or so. It was a real high truck. And tore up my ankle, tore up my knee. I remember falling. I remember getting up, falling back down. I had an inmate actually walk me into the medical unit inside the institution. From there I went to the hospital, did x-rays. I had multiple surgeries on my ankle to repair that, multiple surgeries on my knee to repair that. And I knew what was going to happen because I seen it in the past. The DOC, if you get hurt seriously, they will tell you you are deemed unable to, they say you're unable to perform 100% of your job function. So I knew it, I seen it, and I seen what was going to happen to me. So anyways, I had to go down to Harrisburg, to central office, went into a big meeting room. They had arbitrators in there, they had doctors in there, they had lawyers in there. I was in there with my attorney. I had paperwork and medical paperwork with my attorney and everything like that. We went back and forth and back and forth. And you know what? I didn't want to leave. I told him, listen, let me come back, let me come back, let me come back. But they're professional doctors and everything like that overrode my doctor and said, no, not going to happen. So I said, I'm so close to retiring. They said, well, listen, you have military time. You can buy your military time back. And that will give you the age you need, 50, and the years in, 20. They add your time you buy back from the military to your age and your time in, and it gave me the age 50 and the age 20. So my lawyer said, listen, take it. What'll happen is if you don't take it, and I've seen it, he said, they'll fire you. If they fire you, you're going to fight to get your benefits. Not worth it. It takes years. You're fighting a month. So that's what I did. I took the retirement. I had my time in, bought my military time back, and took it. Wasn't going to fight the system. So you know what? Thanks to my grandmother, she knew what she was talking about when she told me, go into the military. And so, you know what? That's why, you know, I'm able to, first of all, I mean, I could have retired. I could have kept working in the States and working in the States, but I didn't want to. That's another whole story that I'll share sometime. But like I said, anyways, if it wasn't for my grandmother, you know, pleading with me to go into the military, you know what? I wouldn't be here in the Philippines right now, and I wouldn't be retired right now here in the Philippines. Like I said, I'll be 51 next year. There's many reasons why guys can retire at a young age here, but you know what? This is my story, and like I said, people have always asked, you know, what's your story, why you retired here so young? But that's it. I mean, that's how I got to be able to retire here at a young age. And you know what? Like I said, if it wasn't for my grandmother, I wouldn't be sitting here right now in the Philippines retired. And that's my story, and I figured I'd share it with you, so now you guys know.